Have you heard of n8n? I really wish they would have picked a better name for this. n8n. It's hard to say. People don't really get it if you're talking in person. You guys can kind of see it here. I'm trying to highlight it. Anyways, I just spent like 10 hours setting up a flow for a specific reason. And in this video, I'm going to take you through that flow. I'm going to show you how I set up a paid video consultation thing with almost no code. I didn't actually write any code myself. Cursor did. But we'll go through that and I'll give you my 3 big takeaways from it, which are how to do Stripe properly in this flow, why you should not use Google Calendar like I did, and the need for a database, which I just use Google Sheets. So, you know, like a data sheet, not a database. All right, so context. We had a client come to us and they said, hey, we are a service provider. So think about like maybe a handyman who fixes stuff under your sink, and they wanted to add a video consultation service to their offerings. So if somebody has an emergency, instead of picking up the call and saying, hey, come, you know, stop my leaky pipe under my faucet, under my sink, whatever. Instead of making a house call for $100 or whatever the house call is, they could get on video chat and just flip the camera around, show them where the leak is, and maybe the technician could walk them through fixing the leak on their own. And maybe they only charge $25-50 for that. So you pay half the price, you get it done very quickly, faster than it would take them to pack up all their stuff on a weekend and try to come out and help you. How do we set up a virtual video consultation service with payments? That's a key thing here. So let's see if I can just walk you guys through what I did. So if I go to this one. Okay, so custom form here. We will get into why that is a little bit later. I put in my information, hit submit. And it takes a second here, but this is actually going out to Stripe and creating the proper Stripe checkout session. Cool. Consultation. I'm going to pay that $25 before the meeting is booked. And the way that I have it done right now, I don't actually select a time because I'm assuming this is an emergency. I need help right now. So I just want to know as soon as it's available. Payment successful. Great. And what I should get in my text, my texty here, it says in-town technician. Okay, so actually this is kind of confusing. So what's happening here is I've got my phone number in here twice. So these are the first 2 messages. This one is going to the technician to say, hey, there's a new emergency service call booked. The customer's name is Daniel. Big stupid timestamp here. And the join link to the Google Meet, because that's what we're using to do the video chat service. The second text message, this would go to the customer. So new emergency service call booked. Looking forward to speaking with you. Here's the consultation time. Again, I need to clean up timestamps, but that's a separate issue. We'll send the Google Meet link at the time of the consultation. Very cool. Please respond why to confirm your appointment. So I'm going to come in here and say, no, that was my kid. Let's see what happens. And I've got another automation in here, no code. It says like, looks like you haven't confirmed. I'm not programmed for that yet. All right, fine. I'll just confirm. Hit the yes there. Bada boom, bada bing. Ugh. Thanks for confirming. Can't wait to help with the little wrench emoji. So that's all set up. And then I mentioned the database here. So we'll just pop over to this Google Sheet. And throughout the flow, this all got populated incrementally. So we got the email, we got the name, phone number, the meeting link to join the meeting. Oh, and can I do this? Let me see if I can do this the proper way. The meeting was actually created. Emergency virtual consultation. It's got, so this is actually my work email account right here that you guys are looking at. So we got my Gemini email account going to my personal email account. So 2 different email accounts on this, and I could join, you know, the meeting, and it's scheduled for pretty much right now. I actually coded it to schedule always at like the half-hour mark, or actually it's 15-minute mark. So I rounded up to 5:30 and said, let's meet in 1 minute. And that is the demo. Okay, so now that you guys got the demo, I just want to walk through each of these things. So in n8n, I had to set up 3 different flows to accomplish all this. So the first is focused on taking payment. We want them to pay first, then we will book the meeting. Obviously, you can go ham with trying to orchestrate and coordinate all this stuff. The second step is going to be payment processing. So basically, once the payment is processed, I should have renamed this really, then we go in and find the next available time slot. And then final thing is handling the text confirmations in a final flow here. So this part, I'll tell you guys, I'll be honest, I actually started with their form up in here. you can do an n8n form, and I was messing with that for a little bit. Unfortunately, I could not. I might be able to go back and fix it now, but I could not get the Stripe like checkout session and redirection stuff working the way that I wanted to. So I had to go into Cursor, and I told it, I said, hey, just build me the simplest Next.js app you can possibly build, which it did. And I did a couple of tweaks there. So basically my front end Next.js app is calling this webhook, which is pretty straightforward stuff. Nothing crazy there. Capturing the fields. So capturing the client name, client phone, email, and then also the success and cancel URL. So that's important to make sure that that Stripe flow works correctly. I don't even think I showed you guys that, but as you can see here, the payment is successful. And then I can go back to home. So this is all like a smooth client interaction there. This was the tough part. So I was trying to do something like create a charge, right? And I think if I go to these docs now, yeah, it tries to take me to Stripe Node. It has all this stuff. Simplest way to create a Stripe payment link. So this was the example I was following at first, which is fine, which is a decent example. It was working. However, this made it pretty difficult to do like the success URL and the redirection back to a confirmation page the way that I wanted. So I ended up ditching this, and instead what you can do is do not create a Stripe node, create a HTTP node, and just call checkout sessions yourself manually. And when you do that, you're going to have to put in, you got to go set up things on the Stripe side, but you'll put in like your line items price. ChatGPT will give you all this if you just ask it specifically. I don't know if ChatGPT gave me the wrong thing at first, but for some reason I had node in the name for the longest time instead of mode. And so this just kept erroring and erroring and erroring. And it was late at night and I was tired, you guys. And I was like, oh. So I got up the next morning, tried it again. Dude, I went and did something else for like an hour and finally came back to this and then realized that I had just misspelled mode. AI can't fix that. That kind of a user error. Passing through the success URL and the cancel URL. So you got to get that part right. These edit things, I actually don't know if I need these, to be honest, but I was trying to make sure that I captured like the redirect URL, because in this step, I created the checkout session. I'm going to redirect them, but I capture their information in my little Google Sheets database first. Then I respond to the webhook, which is a custom response. So that gets returned to my Next.js app, which I guess I can show that really quick. So over here in my Next.js app, I've got this page here. Honestly, this is tricky too. I was running into some CORS issues. So the front end, the browser side of this is actually doing a fetch to the back end side, the API book route. Again, I'm not at the end of all this. I'm not sure if I have to do this yet because I kind of changed what I was doing halfway through. But the back end route here is the one that's actually making that original web request, the webhook request here. It goes through this. It returns back the redirect URL here, or URI, whatever it is. And then I take that redirect URI back to the page and just do a nice window location href to the redirect, and then everything works swimmingly from there. So that is how I would recommend you guys do a Stripe checkout. But again, we don't know if they actually check out and if that's successful. So in comes the second flow. So one of those 149 triggers is when checkout session is completed, then it will start to go through this flow. So once I know that they've paid, again, I capture some custom information specifically for this workflow here. And I say, if the session's completed, probably don't need that check. I do want to make sure though, that if I've got multiple Stripe product lines, then I have this custom consultation type of emergency consultation to make sure I know that it's the right kind of payment that I want to trigger off of. So that's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to come in here. It's going to update our spreadsheet to say, yes, they have paid. Then comes this second most tricky part of this whole thing, which is that I chose to use Google Calendar. In hindsight, I would not do that. I do not recommend you do this because these APIs are very limited. I would recommend something like Calendly, even if you have to pay for it. Because, dude, you have to go out and get all the events. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the next available time slot. I'm assuming this is an emergency. This person's got water, spurting out of their sink. They want to get a plumber on the line to fix this. So So I didn't take them normally through Calendly. I just said, hey, give me the next available time slot. I'm just going to book it. I'm going to book it. I'm going to schedule the meeting. I'm going to send out the SMS, SOS messages, and get everything rolling. So first I have to check availability. Then you have to do a custom code node, which thankfully I'm kind of an engineer. I mean, I am an engineer, so I can run this through ChatGPT. I had to make some fixes. There's some type errors, but I have to do all this code to figure out what's the next available window. Things get wonky because if you've got recurring series, right, you might have started that recurring meeting series like months ago, and that's going to show up in some of the metadata. So you're trying to figure out like, well, start right now, take a look at the next couple hours is a huge pain in the butt. And I imagine that if I had just integrated Calendly with some kind of like preset calendar selection flow, that would have been a lot easier. So once you do that, I'm identifying a start, an ideal start time and end time that's roughly 15 minutes in the future from now. So I can set that up and create a Google Calendar event, and then adding in my participant, which actually comes from Stripe. So I can take that email as kind of the primary lookup key and keep mapping back to my spreadsheet here to make sure I'm saving and pulling the right information, because once that meeting is created, I actually want to save off that meeting link so that I can continue to text that out. Let's go back here. So I create the event, update the database like I just said, and then send 2 text messages, one to the client, one to the customer. One to the customer, one to the technician. Of course, that was both me in the example. That's our second flow. Once the payment's processed, we go ahead and book the meeting. The third flow here is handling the text confirmations. So again, this really, like before, a lot of the stuff I was doing, I kind of got by without needing a Google spreadsheet. But at this point, it got complicated because Twilio has no idea what email it's using. Twilio only knows the phone number. So I've got email, I've got phone number. I need to be able to look up information on both of these because like you guys saw, what I want to be able to do when they text back confirmation, I need to know that it's coming from a number of a person who has booked so that I can update the spreadsheet and do more actions. So there's a column in here called confirmed. So when Daniel texts back in on this number, I want to be able to say, yes, he confirmed this meeting. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward. Twilio has two triggers for pretty much everything, right? New SMS or a new call. I just check the body to make sure it's the value Y for a yes confirmation. And of course, none of this is AI yet, but I've been thinking about how to put AI into each of these flows so that as people are texting in, the text messages going back are kind of AI enhanced. So I can use sentences. They might not text capital Y, they might text lowercase y, and I can maybe do like, some sentiment analysis of like, hey, is this person approving with this message? Did they say yup? Or, absolutely, boyfriend, or whatever. So you can actually like enhance the interactions that way, which I have not done yet because I just trying to get all this stuff hooked up. Okay, I hope that's been useful so far. If you guys want me to do a full tutorial, just let me know in the comments and I will consider it. No promises. I'm a busy man. But one last little thing is I just want to quickly like speed run you guys through my process because I've never used this tool before. Probably took me like 10 hours or something to get all of this working. Biggest issues was figuring Stripe out, figuring out the right way to do a Stripe checkout session. I struggled with the forms a lot before I did my own custom form. What else? Another random thing I struggled with was some of the syntax in here for n8n is kind of complicated because in a lot of cases, you're doing something like .item to reference a variable earlier in the flow, but sometimes it's not .item, it's .first. So a lot of times it would say .item like this, and we're not going to get it now, but it would show up as red. It would say, I don't know what you're talking about. And that took me a while to figure out because there was not really helpful documentation on that I found anyway. Okay, so just real quick, we're going to run through some of my notes here. I started out running n8n in a local Docker setup. I wouldn't really recommend that because it just makes things more complicated, and you get 14 days on the free trial. And even if you upgrade to the lowest basic tier, it's like $24. Like, come on, you guys, just pay the $24. It's really not that bad. I did go to ChatGPT and I kind of described what I wanted, and I said, create me a JSON, because in n8n, you can actually upload you can import from a file. So ChatGPT spit me out a JSON of my initial flow. I saved that to a file, and then I just uploaded it into n8n. I also wouldn't recommend that either because it just kind of makes it more complicated. And I think ChatGPT, when I would just tell it like, hey, I want to do this in n8n, hey, I want to, check calendar availability, whatever. Like it told me how to do it in n8n just as friendly as creating the JSON. And the JSON I can't validate. It's going to create this like big, what is this, 1, 7, 8, 9 steps of JSON thing. And it's like, okay, I have a whole picture here, but I still have to go through node by node and validate everything. So I would just use it as is. Wasn't too bad hooking up the services. I already had a Twilio account, so I didn't have to go through that kind of setup. I've already covered this custom code thing. That was not super fun. Don't use Google Calendar, use Calendly or something a little bit more friendly. But I was able to send a text message fairly quickly and all this, so that was fun. Like I said, ChatGPT originally recommended a webhook as the entry point. And this ninja guy, where'd you go? Where'd you go, ninja boy? Over here, Emmanuel. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, Emmanuel. You can see here he's actually got the creation form. And dude, I think he must have been using an older version because you can export this file, like the thing he did here, the template, you can export that as JSON and import it, and it kind of works. But if you try to just recreate this vanilla, n8n actually does not like the creation form being hooked up to a respond to webhook node. If you've never used n8n before, that's going to be confusing. Just know that if you have a webhook coming in like this, like I've got over here, that's kind of the only time that you can use this respond to webhook thing. So that there's some kind of version mismatch going on here. So I wouldn't recommend using the forms for something like this. I pulled in Stripe. I had to go build a custom form for that. Install Stripe CLI test messages. Testing was kind of a pain, to be honest. Stripe does have a CLI where you can send some test messages. But honestly, I ended up just starting to test in production because it really wasn't that bad. And again, that's like I'm already paying for a Twilio account and a Stripe account and stuff. So it's really, I'm paying pennies to test this stuff. Then I wanted to get a message back from Twilio. That was pretty straightforward. Added Google Sheets for the database, like I said. This is my note about it's not working, and it's because I had this stupid node. I kept writing node instead of mode on the Stripe checkout stuff. Finally got that working. Linking the Stripe payment event. That was pretty straightforward. Kind of realized I had to match on the phone number at that point, and then everything worked after that. So again, hope that was useful. I think probably the biggest takeaway here is that it's amazing how much you can do in n8n. As you guys saw, though, it's like I still had to write a custom front-end app for my particular flow that I'm doing. And since I was using Google Calendar, I had to write some of this custom code in here to do these transformations and API checking that I wanted to do. And even this Stripe checkout here, this is just a web request, you guys. This is just like an API call. So several points in this flow. And if you think about a coder, an engineer who actually knows how to use Cursor, like it probably would have taken me almost the same amount of time to build this in Cursor as a custom web app. Now, hosting is a lot simpler, right? This is like n8n is like it's like the new serverless because there's a whole bunch of stuff here that I'm not having to host. All I have to host is my little front end form, and that's super easy with Vercel and everything. And all of the back-end stuff is now just little endpoints and automations in n8n. So from that perspective, even if it takes me the same amount of time, and I might even be paying a little bit more because I'm paying $24 a month for n8n, I'm paying for Twilio, Google Workspace, which is kind of free because I'm already paying for that. So I don't know. You can do the cost calculations on your specific setup, but you're probably not saving money hosting wise with stuff like this down the road, especially if you start amping up the volume. Definitely fun though. All right. Thanks for watching.